The following program is intended for informational purposes only. It's not investment advice, and the opinions expressed are the opinions of the individuals expressing them. It's the Wild West out there. Do your research before putting money on the line. Today is February 4th, 2013. Welcome to episode 81 of Let's Talk Bitcoin, a twice-weekly show about the ideas, people, and projects building the digital economy and the future of money. My name is Adam B. Levine. I'm the editor-in-chief at the LTB Network, and today's episode is about how Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are different things to different people. I've often noted that cryptocurrency, permaculture, and 3D printing have a tremendous amount of overlap in their adherence because they're all systemic approaches to big problems: money, agriculture, and manufacturing, respectively. I'm not alone in this thought, and Xavier Hawk recently spoke about his take on cryptocurrency, how he came to it, and where he's taking it for the betterment of his project, Colony Earth. Then, I've had a secret for a while. It's called LTB Coin, and I'll explain what I mean at the end of today's episode. But first, Stephanie Murphy caught up with Michael Pacher to talk about the latest point-of-sale systems for Bitcoin and how their technology can free servers from the need to handle money at all. Enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Stephanie Murphy for Let's Talk Bitcoin. I'm here today and I'm talking with Michael Pacher from SoftTouch. Hi, Michael. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
SoftTouch is a company that makes point-of-sale systems, and recently I heard about you in the news because you are making a product that integrates Bitcoin payments. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We've taken our flagship point-of-sale product and we have integrated Bitcoin payment processing into it.
Your flagship product, and that would be used in restaurants and other types of stores where people are buying physical goods?
We're primarily focused on the restaurant industry. We have our point-of-sale system is used in several capacities. One of them is by the wait staff, of course, to enter the orders, to do order entry for the customers. Another approach is, of course, like diners, where the customer would approach the cashier directly. In either case, we have created a solution that allows them to use Bitcoin as a form of payment.
How would that work? If a customer goes to a restaurant, let's say, they're using SoftTouch POS systems, the customer wants to pay with Bitcoin, how would they go about doing that?
So in a traditional eatery setting, you're sitting at the table and you eat your meal, and at some point you say, I'm done, and you can ask for a guest check. So there's several different workflows, but probably the simplest is you get your guest check, and there's a QR code right there on the check. You can use your phone to scan the QR code, and that immediately brings you up to our proprietary Bitcoin payment screen.
Oh, so that sounds really easy. So the restaurant wouldn't have to have like a dedicated tablet or something that they bring over to the table. They could actually print a paper receipt and it would have a QR code where the customer could then pay the invoice with Bitcoin.
So that's correct. That QR code, right now we're integrated with BitPay as the payment gateway, and what we've done is we've created a solution that allows that QR code to request an invoice from BitPay, which then they can pay against using their own Bitcoin wallet on their mobile device.
How long has this been out, first of all?
We released this 2 or 3 months ago. We've been marketing it since then.
How has the adoption been? Have you had a lot of interest in restaurants wanting to use the system?
We've had some interest. The majority of interest has actually been on the patron side. We've gotten a lot of people saying, wow, where are your restaurants? We want to go and eat there because we want to pay in Bitcoin. On the industry side, we haven't seen as much interest, and we expected as much. The restaurant industry is typically slow to adopt new concepts, new technology. We believe that it's inevitable. Most retailers and restaurants are going to accept this at some point, so we decided to be a leader and not a follower.
That's really interesting that the demand seems to be driven by the customers. Now, you're the president of SoftTouch. Was this your idea?
About a year ago, a little bit more, I started to become a Bitcoin enthusiast. I thought the whole concept was fascinating, did some trading myself, and I had read an article about some retailers and some restaurants accepting Bitcoin, and it seemed to be more than just a novelty. They were having some legitimate business with it. That's when we were connected with BitPay and decided to go ahead and create that solution, that integrated solution.
Before you thought of this, had you ever tried to go to a restaurant or somewhere where there was like a physical store and pay for something with Bitcoin yourself?
No, not personally. Hadn't thought of it so much in that capacity. I was more on the trading side, and the whole cryptocurrency was just very fascinating to me. But yeah, once I read about it, it dawned on me that, wow, you could really use this in a more traditional setting. And at that point, we decided, hey, let's just go ahead and integrate this.
And had you ever bought anything online with Bitcoin, purchased an item?
That I can recall. I hadn't used it for purchasing at that time. I've since done some novelty purchases, but I'm waiting for Amazon to accept it.
Right. The reason I ask is because I've had some experience with purchasing things with Bitcoin, both, going to a restaurant and trying to pay the bill with Bitcoin and purchasing physical items or even donating to a charity in person by scanning a QR code on their tip jar that they had. Except for that last scenario, all of them were kind of cumbersome. Oh, and also buying things online. It can be a little bit cumbersome when you go to a restaurant. And one of the issues that I came up against was sort of how familiar the staff of the restaurant was or the store with Bitcoin. I remember going to a restaurant once where I wanted to pay the bill with Bitcoin, and I went there specifically because they were using Bitcoin at that restaurant. The food was great, and then the bill came and it was time to finish dinner. I asked the waitress, hey, can I pay for this in Bitcoin? And she kind of said, I've never done that before. Let me go check on that.
It becomes a research project at that point.
Yeah, so staff training can be an issue. So, does Soft Touch offer any kind of training or something that might ease the restaurant's fears about training their staff to do Bitcoin payments?
We have gone to great lengths to simplify that payment process. Depending on the workflow, it varies slightly. So the workflow that I outlined earlier that describes the conventional setting, once they receive the guest check, all the instructions are right there. So if the person is knowledgeable of Bitcoin and already has a Bitcoin wallet, it's simple. The waitstaff isn't even involved at that point. It says right on the receipt, you can pay with Bitcoin, scan this code, and everything happens right there on their personal device. So it doesn't involve the waitstaff. We've gone one step further. We've even integrated it into a product that we call Quick Pay, Time Blast Quick Pay. What this product allows the patron to do is pay their bill before they even receive a guest check. So there's a little placard on the table that says, here's your table code. Go to quickpay.dimeblast.com, enter this code, and now on their personal device, they can see their guest check electronically. So they don't even have to engage the waitstaff. At that point, they're presented with options. It says you can pay with credit card, you can pay with Bitcoin. And so if they want to pay with Bitcoin, it's right there. Very, very simple, and we've done a lot of use case testing to make sure that we didn't create any obstacles or burden for the restaurant with respect to the payment process. Another workflow is the fast food setting or quick service where you pay before you get your food. And again, we've done the same thing. If the person wants to pay with Bitcoin right there at the cashier, they'll actually print out the receipt at that point, hand it to them with the QR code, they can pay, and that payment will be remitted immediately, and the cashier will get a notification. So she's actually looking at her screen when the customer says, I want to pay with BitPay. We provided all the instructions interactively right onto her screen. So she doesn't need to call a manager. If she's never done it before, it's going to tell her exactly what to do. So it's an interactive tutorial as well as the payment process itself that's embedded into the system.
So this sounds really great. One thing I wanted to mention quick before I ask you the next question I had in mind was I know that there are also some people who might be concerned about, this doesn't happen too often, but there have been some cases in the past where there have been restaurants where, the wait staff will steal credit card numbers and stuff like that. And so giving your credit card to somebody that you don't know might be something that people don't want to do. And so with Bitcoin, you don't have to give up any personal information. You can just pay the invoice right there. That's a cool feature, I think, that could cut down on credit card theft.
Absolutely.
Is there ever an issue with somebody sending a Bitcoin payment, for instance, and then leaving before the payment gets the first confirmation, and perhaps they lost internet or they didn't add a transaction fee? The Bitcoin payment never gets confirmed on the Bitcoin network, but the invoice is marked paid because they did attempt to send that payment. Is that ever an issue, or can that not happen?
I don't believe that can happen. What we do is we receive confirmation through BitPay, and at that point they're basically saying that this transaction is committed and it's going to take place, even if the blockchain hasn't provided all of the confirmations necessary. What will typically happen is, once the person pays against that invoice, we will monitor for that confirmation. Now, the cashier will be well aware of that because she's watching a screen that says we're waiting for confirmation. As soon as she gets it, she'll know that the payment was received. In the other setting, where the person is paying by phone without engaging any of the wait staff or paying by mobile device, it's going to be a similar process. It will actually sit there and show them that their payment is processing, and it won't take them to their final receipt until that payment is confirmed. So it's a really unlikely scenario, if even at all possible.
What if somebody, I'm just trying to picture everything that could possibly go wrong, and actually a lot of these have happened to me at some point. What if somebody makes an error when they're paying and sends the wrong amount of Bitcoin to the invoice? This actually happened to me too, by the way. I was buying a cup of soda, I think, at a store, and I was paying with Bitcoin, and it was, I believe, 0.002 Bitcoins or something like that. And I screwed up and I sent 0.02. I sent 10 times too much. The cashier had to manually send me 0.018 back. If somebody is using one of your systems, does the cashier have the ability to refund a payment that's too big? Or if somebody makes a mistake, can they somehow get refunded with their Bitcoin?
Yeah, they can actually go through the BitPay management console and do the refund. At this time, we don't support the refunds through the POS system. We redirect them to BitPay to do that. Again, it's very unlikely because of the invoicing system that we use. There's a button that says Open Bitcoin Wallet. As soon as they click that, we pre-populate the payment amount based on the gratuity that they've included or added and the check amount. So it's pre-populated the exact amount that they've already declared that they want to pay. They should never, ever change that number because it already matches the invoice amount. Again, we're trying to reduce the opportunity for those kinds of errors to occur. Yes, if somebody for some reason decided to change the amount and then caught on to it later, they could certainly get a refund through BitPay, through the payment gateway.
And then one last question, what if a server at a restaurant wanted to keep their tips that they received in Bitcoin? Could they do that, or does it depend on, since the restaurant is probably converting the Bitcoin to cash and not keeping it in BitPay, could a server decide to do that on their own?
At this level of integration, you're right, most of it is being converted back to cash, or even if the restaurant operator elects to keep everything as native Bitcoin on the BitPay gateway side, what will happen is when that server wants to be paid at the end of the night, our system will automatically calculate their tips and in cash amounts in U.S. dollars. So at this point, we've not approached that use case or come up with a solution for that. We'd like to see some adoption across the restaurant industry and then perhaps delve into that. One of the things we were talking about earlier with respect to the security side of paying with Bitcoin is you were absolutely on point with not having to surrender a credit card. And, of course, one of the other great opportunities or advantages for the restaurant operators is the lower cost of transaction fees that they would pay on those Bitcoin transactions versus credit card transactions. So, it's an important point. I think that the operators need to understand that as the popularity of this increases, they stand to make more money by using it.
Michael, thank you so much for your time. Michael Pacher, he's the president of Soft Touch POS Systems, and you can visit their website at softtouchpos.com. On the front page, you're going to see a big slider that says we have Bitcoin integration, and I think that's great. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is Chris Joseph bringing you news on Next, the first true second-generation cryptocurrency for February 4th, 2014. Next's Arbitrary Messages feature allows data in any format to be transmitted and secured by the decentralized Next blockchain. Numerous developers submitted applications of this feature to a contest that closed on February 1st. Submitted projects include an encrypted messaging system, a Twitter-like application, a torrent link storage system, user-to-user messaging apps for Android, Windows, and iPhone, and a wallet metadata storage system. The community voted on their favorites over the weekend, and a total bounty of 160,000 Next was awarded as prizes. For more information, head to nextcrypto.org or mynxt.org. And stay tuned for more news on Next and the next Let's Talk Bitcoin broadcast.
Hello, everybody. My name is Xavier Hawk. I'm the founder of Colony Earth, a small eco-development right outside of Asheville, North Carolina. I'm going to be talking a little bit about permaculture. I'm going to be talking about the permaculture of Bitcoin. I'm going to be talking about trends in the housing market and trends in general, and what we're going to be seeing in the future, and how the model that I've come up with for developments is going to be the way of the future. So permaculture, in 2 words, is permanent culture. 1 word, it's symbiosis. Does anybody here not know what permaculture is? Okay, so basically what we're doing is we're mimicking the systems in nature in order to produce food and prosperity for ourselves and for those around us. It's the idea of using ruminants like cows and goats to plow a field, dropping their droppings and fertilizing the field and then growing plants there. It's a way of increasing yields with less inputs and stacking systems, kind of like vertical integration in corporate structures, right? You want to have as much functionality as you can in one little space and create a lot of abundance. So in 2 words, permanent culture, in 1 word, symbiosis. The originators are Bill Mollison and David Holmgren, and then Jeff Lawton as well. But they all, just to give you a brief history, they all look back to this guy, and his name is Masanobu Fukuoka. And he says that the ultimate goal of farming is not the growing of crops, but the cultivation and perfection of human beings. There's a really great thing that happens when you start digging in the dirt. You start digging in your own spiritual dirt, and you start learning and becoming more of a true human. Mr. Fukuoka looks back at these folks who are some of my ancestors, and the way they did permaculture was like this. Basically, what they did is they looked at the systems in nature, and they didn't say these are systems where we gain from. These are our neighbors. These are our friends. And this friend likes this friend and grows better with this friend. And when this friend grows in this area with this one, it doesn't do so well, and we don't get so much food. So when the settlers first came to the United States, or what is now the United States, they looked at all of these meadows and said, there's just food growing everywhere. And it didn't look like what we see as agriculture. It was more of a symbiotic relationship between humans and their non-human friends. So the cool thing about permaculture, I mean, this is a real overview, right? This is just really just touching on it. There's called the 3 sisters, right? To give you an example. Corn grows tall, is firm. Beans like to grow up trellises, and squash likes the shade. And it also prevents weeds from growing. So the 3 sisters grow well together because corn grows tall, takes nitrogen. Beans fix nitrogen, grow up the corn, and the squash grows on a ground layer in the shade and prevents weeds from growing. So this is an example of interdependent, mutually beneficial systems. People in permaculture are early adopters, passionate, they're risk takers, they're creative, they're disruptive, free-thinking, community-minded, and very intelligent. A lot like us, the Bitcoin community. We have mutually interdependent beneficial systems like cypherpunks, miners, mining pools, all of these different systems that are coming into play to be able to support one another, to support this ecosystem. Okay, so where we're at Bitcoin is a brand awareness stage. We are trying to get more people to find out about it and to use it. And the different companies that are starting to accept Bitcoin are catering to us, but what we need to do as a community is grow the outlets for usage, not just people who are accepting Bitcoin, but give incentives for people who don't understand what it is to start using it. And anybody who's in marketing will understand that you need to target market. You can't just broad blanket, and say, I'm going to go and do this, and everybody's going to love it. And so my point with the permaculture folks is that they are very similar to us. And there's a Vesica Pisces that's going to happen between the 2 metaspheres of Bitcoin and permaculture and other different spheres as well, because they're like-minded folks and like-minded individuals. So my solution is housing for a permaculture-based lifestyle. The way we do this is, well, let's just say that we fuse 21st century breakneck speed tech advancements with ancient wisdom traditions. If we as a civilization are going to continue on, we are going to need to implement the wisdom and the traditions of our ancient origins to be able to match the technological advancements that we have, or we're going to be like, the fabled Atlantis and destroy ourselves with all of our technology type thing. This is a picture of bubbles of water on glass. And the reason why is because I have this really awesome greenhouse that has a big rain shower in it, and it was pouring snow, and it was 20 degrees outside, and I was sitting in the bathtub very comfortable at a 90-degree greenhouse, and I saw these bubbles going down the glass, these raindrops, and I realized that permaculture was this big bubble that was sitting right there, and then Bitcoin was this fast-moving little that came through, and it hit the permaculture bubble. The permaculture metasphere has been around since 60s and 70s, and Bitcoin's only been around for a few short years, but it's moving faster, and they both are comprised of the same components essentially. One's tech, one's crops. Well, the idea of having the fusion of these metaspheres, right, is we've got permaculture as this slow-moving bubble that's been going down, and then Bitcoin comes, and they actually just connected like this, and the whole thing went a whole lot faster than both of the two on their own. So the point is that we need to target market our research, or target market our efforts. So the trends of the past, my box, phones, Rolexes, are going to give way to the trends of the future, which is going to be clean food and water. There are a number of devastating events that are going around on the planet right now that in 20 years, getting an orange is going to be a really unique treat. Let's just put it that way. And what that means is that everybody wants, healthy food, the LOHAS demographics, the LOHAS generation. People want, they want to have organic food, biodynamic food, clean water, no chlorine, no fluoride. These are going to be the traits and the status symbols of the future, and it's already starting now. So we've got problems with the real estate, housing market, all of these things, failures abound, the playing field is changing. People are less concerned with home ownership. I own property, and I think that I own it, because if I don't pay my taxes on it, somebody's going to come by with a gun and tell me to leave it. So the concept of what we think we own in terms of real estate and land is completely a fallacy. And what's happening now is that there are different communities that are popping up where rather than what do you own really when you own a piece of property? You own a piece of paper that says you have the use of this land for a particular period of time, however long that is, being your life, or if you deed it to your children, or if you transfer it and sell it, you have rights to use this property and do with it as you please. So what we do is redefine ownership, and we put the property in the corporate ownership of the development. And then everybody comes and joins and becomes a member, and they buy a piece of paper that says you have the rights to use it in this way, shape, and form. You can deed it, you can transfer it, you can sell it, and whatnot. So we redefine it that way. So basically we buy, own, and develop the land, and we will be putting them in skyscrapers. And what we can do is we make systems such that we are power generation. We create our own power. We waste management, take care of our own waste management, utilizing all the systems of permaculture to stack all of these things so that they're all creating a higher yield, as it were. So in each of our developments, we can provide housing, clubhouses, retreat centers. So imagine a golf course that you find here in South Florida, high-end golf course, gated community, people pay to be there, and people are taking care of the golf course. You go to a club, and they have a bar and all kinds of cool activities that go on there. Now imagine instead of a golf course, it's permaculture gardens, and you have food delivered to your house every day, fresh eggs from the chickens in the coop, fresh water, all of that. So we're able to provide on-site employment, housing, education, activities, and all of this for our members. So essentially, like I said, the members buy a contract into our eco-village for an introductory price that would be equivalent to a mortgage. And quite interestingly enough, when this gets to full developmental stage where it's operating, we've got a number of these membership villages around the planet. You could buy one place in Cupertino for the price of 4. And the 4 houses that you have, one in Singapore, one in Brazil, one in the United States, wherever it might be, they're actually able to provide you with a revenue source. So while you're not using, kind of like a timeshare. Essentially what I've been doing is I've taken my years of little bit of background. I was a consultant here in South Florida, hacked life, retired at 30, moved and bought this farm, and I was like, I am going to go become Zen on the mountain, right? And I'm going to grow vegetables and trade my intellect, time, and hours for food rather than dollars. So I was looking at it, and my mind just went on, and I was like, there's got to be a way for this to become profitable and abundant and self-sufficient and take care of itself and replicate and scale. So what I did is I came up with this whole business model based on permaculture, and I was like, okay, so I put out an ad on Craigslist. Come and live in our place for $350 a month, plus 15 hours of labor. And I put the ad out on Craigslist for one day, and I had 45 people apply. and I only had room at capacity for 15. So I said, I really got something here. And then started looking at the property more. The picture at the very beginning was the property, and I'll see if we can go back to it at the end. But so essentially, you buy a residential contract or a temporary contract, work trade contract, and all sorts of things. So you're buying a lifelong transferable corporate membership with land use clauses. And what we do is for folks who are doctors and lawyers who don't understand permaculture but like it and like the clean vegetables and that sort of thing, they come and live there and they have an opportunity to learn how the systems work. They can interact with the systems and they get the benefits of those systems. Whereas other folks who don't necessarily have the income levels to not work on the field to do that sort of thing, they get to do it and teach those folks. So what we're doing is we're creating a microclimate ecosystem of productivity and livelihood. So we provide safe, modern, secure housing. You walk inside, mood lighting, set with either your RFID chip that's implanted or your phone or however the technology moves in the future. And the lights turn on to the color that you like, the music comes on, and it's 21st century and further modern technology based upon wisdom traditions, right? So we've got cutting-edge technological advancements, safe, clean, healthy local food that's grown in your neighborhood by people that you know. We can do safe and affordable on-site childcare by people who you know. Also education on-site, local industry and office space on-site. So for me, I go to an office that I run my own businesses out of, and it's on the farm. But other people would do the same. And they travel a lot just like we do, but we don't necessarily want to maintain our goats every day. And we enjoy our goats and enjoy our chickens, but it takes some work to get them fed and do all of that sort of stuff. So you have to find people to take care of them while you're gone and traveling. We provide that. We provide cultural and adventure activities, hiking, mountain climbing, all kinds of cool stuff, as well as global networking, building opportunities. Imagine that golf course that I was telling you about that has a good clubhouse, but instead of evening events or whatever, there's international conferences like this that take place there, right in your own neighborhood, right in your own community, or health and wellness retreats, that sort of thing. So access to untouched wilderness areas, business incubation opportunities. One of the things that we do at our place right now is we provide our resources and land for young folks and agriculturalists and mothers that want to grow different vegetables or create their own cottage industries. So we incubate them, and there's a lot of opportunities for that. And then buying club discounts, we could get health care for everybody that lives there, that kind of thing. So essentially, Colony Earth is a development company, and it buys the resources. And what we do is we have a selection criteria for it needs to be close to a metropolitan area within so many minutes of an airport, needs to have clean water, that kind of thing. And then also the opportunities for lithium mining or water production for spring water, that kind of thing. We look at the natural resources that are on the land and what kind of businesses can be done out of that as well. So we produce revenue in a bunch of different ways. I could go through them all, but what I want to really get to is how Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies fit into all of this. By the way, there are two income revenue generating streams that I have blocked out with hashtags here. Each one of those equals, if not dwarfs, all of the others combined. So just check those out while I'm splaying this out. So when a person comes to our membership development, they're buying a lifestyle. And what we're going to do eventually, and I'm thinking that we're going to end up creating our own currency for this, when we have a number of different villages around the planet, or different developments, a skyscraper in Singapore, a rural farm community in Asheville, that kind of thing, you get a membership to all of those different ones. And when you pay, let's say the mortgage, the down payment on a house would be $20,000 or whatnot. You pay your $20,000. We give you $20,000 worth of our cryptocurrency, like Colony Earth coins. That, like Vitalik was saying, there are going to be coins for different purposes. The way I see the future of Bitcoin and all of these cryptocurrencies is there's going to be it's going to be a biodiverse climate of microclimates of different currencies. Starbucks coins with Target coins with solar coins, all with different purposes, powering different things. So Colony Earth coins, let's say you come and you buy your membership initially for 20 grand. We give you 20 grand worth of Colony Earth coins that are usable at all of the different eco-villages around the planet. You can also take them out on the market and sell them. So what you're getting is a value proposition where you get land, you get access to land, a home, technologically advanced home with clean food, clean water. And then you walk away with coins that you can actually turn around and sell and make some money on as well out in the market. We provide at our place we have just a few employees, 2 or 3, depending upon the level of buy-in and how many people are there. A farm manager who determines what crops are going to be grown and how much to grow so that everybody can be fed that's there, and that there can be profits made over that, as well as an activities coordinator who produces the events that take place there, that does cool stuff for the community members, as well as international folks doing retreats and whatnot, and then also an administrator. We pay them in Bitcoin and Litecoin and different currencies. Also, when you have a home in one of our developments and you decide to take off for a couple months and there's a retreat going on in the place where you're not at, but you don't mind having somebody rent out your spot, then you're producing income for yourself on that. And how many of you have seen these bio glow plants? They've just created these plants that glow like in the movie Avatar. Anybody seen those? They're selling them for like $150, and whether you believe in biogenetics and all of these other genetic modifications, they're pretty cool. they're bioluminescent plants. Anyway, so something like that could be a cottage industry that could be grown. The folks who are living there that are working the land and whatever would be growing these things, and that's some extra added revenue for the corporation. Each eco-village corporation, each development, whom the owners the people who buy the contracts will get profits from it. So you're looking at a value-added proposition where you get a home, clean food, an appreciating asset in the form of your membership contract, an appreciating asset in the form of your Bitcoins and Litecoins and all of the other altcoins, and part of something that's cutting edge the future, right? So this is just a modest pro forma for a small little development, and you're looking at $1.6 million a year. That's with all costs and everything included. So we've got pictures, marketing. So like I said with the Craigslist ad, when trends happen and you position yourself ahead of them, there's very little that you need to do it's kind of like paddling and surfboarding, right? I love surfing, and when you are positioned properly and a wave comes, it's easy to get up on top of it. So we structure each village in a way so that it's maximum use, where there's a lot of communal areas to hang out. There's retreat centers, there's production, productivity, livelihood. We're able to employ people on site. So let's say you're not a doctor and a lawyer, but you're a college student and you don't have a lot of dough, but you really want to live this way, and you don't mind working in the fields, but you also don't have a job and you don't want to commute 30 minutes to the nearest metropolitan area. We're able to provide you with jobs on site through various partners. One of them is Arise, which is a company that does customer service. You can be a customer service rep for Apple, for United Airlines, all of these different companies, straight from your home, but we provide an office, and that's actually one of the ways that we produce added value. My goal is to build one of these in Singapore and build a skyscraper that looks something like this and produces its own food, its own water. A good friend of mine is the guy who owns the water cleaning device that the White House uses. You could stick radioactive Fukushima slime mold into it and come out with clean water out of it. And we could put those in houses. There are devices that are currently manufactured overseas that produce power. They're basically about the size of a 55-gallon drum, and you could power an entire skyscraper with it. Clean energy, plasma fusion is being done by folks in New Jersey right now, basically, and then solar power and all of these different ones. The technology that we have right now exists to be able to provide an earth ship, right? That's also one of the things that we do is we build earth ships, which are totally self-sustaining, off-grid, power generating, fuel generating, waste management generating homes. So it's high technologically advanced stuff based upon the wisdom traditions of permaculture and the things that keep us alive. So we've got pictures of all of these beautiful things, and we're talking high-end skyscrapers. We're talking high-end living. We're talking new symbols of wealth, new status symbols of how it means to live good, green, in balance with the earth, and how the future is going to look. One of the guys on my board, he can actually grow this in 7 years for under $100,000. You can grow an island now with the same process and same technology that mollusks use to create their shell. It's called calcium accretion. You can put a big grid, a mesh grid underwater with some batteries and solar power, and over the course of 7 years, it'll become a seashell, a living seashell that you've designed and created in the shape that you want. So that technology exists now. And also, we're going to be Colony Moon when Sir Richard Branson eventually gets Virgin Galactic to the moon and we start building colonies. The technologies that I'm using and the technologies that I'm incorporating will be the mining colonies of the future. You know, the coal towns of West Virginia back in the day, this is going to be a return to that, essentially. And Facebook just decided that they're going to open up a housing community out in California. Has anybody heard about that? They're spending like $140 million or something like that, and they're really wasting their money because they're not implementing the strategies that I've already designed into the system. Here's the dark side of this, right? A panopticon, a home that you walk in where every movement that you have is tracked, your heartbeat, your heart rate, all of these things are tracked in the cloud and all of that. I mean, that is, you guys know the movie Alien, right? Where they go to space and they find this crazy being that the way that future is a fascist sort of technocratic global technocracy run by corporations. Just with Bitcoin, just with the protocols of Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies, we're making governments obsolete in a sense because we're able to self-determine democratically what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and what gets money and what doesn't, what gets funded and what doesn't. Vitalik just made a great point about all of the climate of all of these different coins existing. If you believe in medical research and you're going to buy those coins and get value for them, it's going to be a self-organizing. The Earth will become a self-organizing collective democratically, and we're not going to have the need for these things. And what's happening now is like we've got companies like Google and all of these other wonderful companies, the technological companies that are solving all of these problems with math, essentially. There's no more fight the power, it's ignore the power. It is we are the power. It is we do what we want now and we come up with situations and solutions for things that are amicable and beautiful. The challenges and the dark side of that is that it could be turned into a matrix, essentially. But we are Colony Earth, and we like to make it warm and fuzzy and give people good food, clean water, great environment for their kids to grow in, a template of how humans can live in balance with the planet, running on 21st century technologies of cryptocurrency, but utilizing the wisdom traditions of our past. So some points to consider is some of the things that I was saying was that this is very Americentric in the declining housing market. We can stick these anywhere. In fact, we can do this easier in some other countries than we could in the United States. Funny that, right? There's a whole how the government of this little eco-village runs, how the board works, what levels of stock that you get when you buy at different levels and whatnot. And you also get your own returns and profit sharing. And we can do this in Detroit, we can do this in Singapore, we can do this in Hong Kong, we can make floating islands, we can do it on the moon. What I showed you earlier was one small village with one building here in Miami that has 600 people. I was doing the calculations the other night before I went to bed. I mean, we would be able to return a $40 million investment in 5 years with a good upside, really good one. So eventually we'll build and design eco-village to sell to large corporations like Google and Facebook. Also corporations that want to mine on the moon, we'll be able to sell them these models and sell them the contracts and do it. We have an appreciating asset of the land. We actually control the real value there. And some of the folks that I've talked, I'm a really unique dude with a lot of really strange connections that I've made in my life. And I know that there are people at the very tip top of our civilization that are saying this is the lifeboat of humanity. These kinds of models, this decentralized communal living, not the hippie commune thing, but the permaculture-based systems where food is produced on your own spot and all of that. That's the future, and people are going to pay out the nose for this kind of lifestyle. And that's it. Are there any questions? Yes.
I have seen many initiatives like this, including Venus Project. You borrowed a couple of pictures from this project.
Yes.
And all of them usually end up in similar way, actually, because of the same problems that Bitcoin is currently facing. Is government laws. You're assuming that territory is free and you will not have comply or report to anybody, but governments of majority of countries, for example, will forbid you to use own currency and will ask you to pay taxes. And
that's no problem. I know where you're going with this, and you're right. And actually what he was touching on was that 99% of intentional communities fail because people don't understand business and they go into it thinking, we're going to go and live communally and we're not going to have money and we're going to trade food and trade barter and this and that. That kind of works, but you need to have it make dollars to make sense. Also, what you were saying about the, so my model is based upon a business structure. It's about, yes, we like beautiful technology and all of these things, and yes, we are going to pay taxes to whatever municipality we are in. That's not an issue. I don't think we're trying to create. So at the phase that we're at right now is we're looking for six-figure investors. In 7 years, I plan to have this a nine-figure concern. I would like to get a blimp, and there's a fellow by the name of Igor Pasternak who is creating a ship called the Arrows Craft. He'll be ready in 2020. So I am planning on having this become a powerhouse to be able to fund essentially the world's first high-profile action hero team that would be using a blimp to come in and rescue people, like in what happened with Haiti. The roads were all blocked. If we were able to drop a tent city. Anyway, that's where I'm headed. And any other questions? Yes?
Yeah, that's kind of an extreme example, but let's say you've got your community and 2/3 of the people want to grow bioluminescence plants and 1/3 of the people want to grow tomatoes. How do you deal with that?
Well, that's determined by the residents, the people who buy in the contracts. They determine, 2/3 want this, 2/3 want that. It's really all, we set the guidelines. And we say, this is what needs to happen. Like, these are the business systems that we can see working here, and these are how you get to decide what it looks like, how it moves, and that's all determined by the people who are living there, the board members. And the reason why this works as opposed to all the other communities and whatnot is because it's based on money. And when people decide that they're going to be invested in this, they're investing not only their lifestyle but their time and their efforts. They're going to see that it does well. They're going to put effort into making sure that it does well because they're paying to be there. They're paying to get the results of it, and so they're going to be involved in how it goes down. Not a homeowners association, but a board of directors. Any other questions?
My aunt was actually in charge with a state representative of Florida. They incorporated what it used to be called Cutler Ridge, and they actually incorporated the city and called it Cutler Bay.
Right.
And instead of actually paying the taxes to the feds right away, they kept it inside the community. And then basically completely changed the whole entire city. It's a good case study, actually.
Really? So they created their own municipality?
Yeah, so
nice.
It's Cutler Bay, Florida. It's like basically in Miami, you have these little subsidiary cities, basically. Yeah. And if you actually incorporate it, you can actually use the capital to change the community. It might be a way of you actually doing it quasi-official now.
Yeah,
and actually
no, I
using
like that
system. So, I mean, like, it completely changed. Like, if you look at the numbers of Cutler Bay, like, and you look at what it was, in 2004, before it was incorporated, completely different. We had like 2 police officers, crime rates were crazy. Then went to 15.
Yes, I actually heard of that. Now that you mentioned that, right.
It might be an interesting thing. I don't know if you've thought about going through a quasi.
No, I haven't even thought about incorporating as a municipality, but that's a really good idea.
If I understand right, like your immediate demographic is like affluent ex-hippies and maybe college students that are willing to work on the commune. How are your eco communities going to benefit, say, the One Straw Farmer or the Iroquois that you quoted at the beginning of your presentation?
So what's really cool about this is when we have colony coins, colony earth coins, and all that going around, we can take one of these and at any level, we can do high-end skyscrapers, like I was saying, and we could renovate Detroit. We could go to the reservation in Pine Ridge and put this in place and give them all of their systems back. This is me being like, I want to better the world. How do I do this? And turning my back on all of the protesting and all of those things and saying, how do I do this so that it makes sense for people and is actually implementable and is not just a pipe dream? Thank you very much. My name is Xavier Hawk. I've got a booth out there, Colony Earth.
The Big Give Foundation is a non-profit charitable giving organization leveraging the power of the Bitcoin community to improve public health and the environment worldwide. Help us demonstrate the significant impact of Bitcoin in addressing these critical issues on a global scale. Support international giving in Bitcoin. Please visit our website at www.bitgivefoundation.org. That's www.bitgivefoundation.org.
CryptoKit is the world's first Chrome browser Bitcoin wallet. It's the easiest, fastest Bitcoin wallet payment system. With a simple one-click install, it takes just seconds to get your wallet set up. And because CryptoKit finds the address and payment for you, there's no more fussing around or tab switching. CryptoKit is more than just a wallet. It comes with a preloaded PGP encrypted social network, news feeds from Reddit and Google, and up-to-date charts from exchanges. Finally, CryptoKit Directory allows you to make 2-click payments with any of the BitPay merchants. Once you install CryptoKit, you won't need anything else. For more information or to download CryptoKit, visit CryptoKit.com.
Money is funny. You do all kinds of things for it. Many of those things probably fall into the category of things you wouldn't do if you weren't being paid to do it. And yet, money is the thing that one needs to live. Bitcoin is money just like any other. People believe it to be valuable because they believe it to be limited in quantity, with growing numbers of people wishing to have some. If you're holding Bitcoin, that's the lowercase b version of Bitcoins, the ones that are tracked in your wallet rather than the infrastructure level pipes through which those tokens flow. If you're speculating on the price of Bitcoin going up, really what you believe is that the network will grow and that more people will therefore find the network's tokens more valuable, which will be reflected by a higher price new users are willing to pay for it. If you're an LTB listener, no doubt you've heard of both altcoins and metacoins, but today we're going to talk about a new kind of coin, a network coin. Today I want to tell you about LTB coin. Let's Talk Bitcoin, the show that I've been producing since April 2013, has taken a huge amount of my time and advanced enormously in the amount of time that we've been around. It's been a very rewarding experience, and while I practice what I preach, tip content, and share funds wherever possible, the reality is that none of the people who have helped me build LTB to the point we're at now are owners of the parent company or partners in the underlying anything. Creating something from nothing is difficult under any circumstances. And lacking any real financial resources, our strategy had been to do good work, put it out for free to anyone who wants it, and ask for help in the form of volunteers or discounted services from listeners who like what we do and want to help. I believe that using a network coin, we can, from minute one, reward those who add value to the network by paying them with a coin that is given value by the network. I'm going to say that again. If I had started Let's Talk Bitcoin and on day one I had access to an alternative cryptocurrency called LTB coin, even though LTB coin would have been worthless, I could have paid people with it at no cost to the project. If Let's Talk Bitcoin had failed, the currency I'd been compensating people in would have been worthless, but that's no different than any other speculative or volunteer project. If, on the other hand, the network succeeds, while the coins could be sold as soon as they're traded on the market, they can also be held until the network is more valuable. Because LTB coin is tradable for Bitcoin, it functions as a stake in the LTB network effect and a currency for those who want it. So, I've said that I could pay volunteers with LTB coin. I can explain this, but first we have to talk about mining. Most coins are valuable because of the network that uses them. First creating a coin and then attempting to bring in service providers who will accept it, thus giving utility to the coin and therefore value. Bitcoin had a bit of a chicken-egg problem. It was the first cryptocurrency, so only a handful of people understood what it could be, and yet to achieve redundant decentralization, it needed to be distributed to many and not just a few. Computational mining was the solution they arrived on. It limited the people who would get access to the early Bitcoins to those who were biased towards early adopters and tech-savvy people, rather than those who generally received new money. In much the same way, LTB coin will not use a computational mining, rather requiring a more nuanced proof of work. Those who create the value of the network are the content creators and the audiences they cater to. LTB coin will be distributed both as pay to content creators and service providers who populate the Let's Talk Bitcoin network, and as valuable prizes given to many lucky members of the LTB audience. LTB coin will be valuable because it will be the exclusive token used to sponsor the LTB network. LTB coin will also be the token that lets you become a contestant on our game show, buy gear for the best prices in our store, and over time this list will grow. Basically, with a network coin, anything new we roll out through the network has something awesome that you can do on it that's cheaper, better, that you simply can't do with anything else. Network coins are made valuable by the network accepting them. If the service or good they offer in exchange is not valuable or appeals to few people, then the token won't be valuable. But in networks that truly do create value, what I think we've got here is a virtuous cycle that can empower people to start small with LTB, and as the network continues to find growth and success, these humble beginnings can give early contributors and listeners the financial freedom to help out more if they desire, or to do something else entirely. So, to recap, LTB coin is good for everyone working on the project because their efforts make them the miners of our system, where their productive effort and the inclusion of their content on our network is their proof of work. Someone who creates a show for the network adds more value than someone who does announcements for a single episode, and they add more value than someone just listening. All of these actions do have value, and all of them are mining in their own way. LTB coin is good for the audience. There will be raffles, surveys, on-air giveaways, and at least one game show giving it away en masse. It doesn't matter how you acquired LTB coin, you stand to gain from more people discovering the LTB network and becoming a member of our growing community. Imagine if you could hold some coins of your favorite unsigned artist. They get some funds up front, and if they make it big, you'll be the guy who bought their equivalent of Bitcoin in 2010. Aside from the direct benefits, the audience will also see much more and much higher quality new content as that element of financial interest turns up the competitive heat. LTB coin is good for sponsors. If you believe the network will grow in the future, you can buy LTB coin up front. Since it's a deflationary, fixed-supply cryptocurrency and sponsor slots are auctioned to the highest bidder, if you hold on to your supply, you should be able to get more value for your LTB coin as time goes on. On the other hand, a sponsor just discovering the network can buy LTB coin at the current market rate and not pay a penalty. They just can't capture the discount of having bought early. Another thing to note is that with this change, we'll be creating a new program for individual patrons. To this point, we've accepted sponsors who are generally forward-looking individuals who run companies that have products to sell. Moving forward, sponsor slots will be available to individuals as well to make personal announcements, collaboration requests, idea pitches. The field is pretty wide open. Our restrictions remain the same as they've always been, which is nothing illegal, nothing dishonest, no gambling, sex, or weapons. And at their core, network coins are good for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is to a certain extent one of a kind. It's a coin that's the most popular coin because it's the most popular coin. There can kind of only be one of those, and so the argument goes that any coin that copies Bitcoin but has its own money supply is effectively diluting the value of Bitcoin. With a network coin, that's just not the case. Bitcoin's network, its value, is enhanced by things like LTB coin and all network coins, because Bitcoin is the crypto reserve currency. Think of Bitcoin like the dollar and LTB coin like a first-year stock. Is the value of the dollar diminished by a stock like Google? I don't think so. So, to summarize, I think LTB coin is a real win-win situation and will be a very popular model for bootstrapping everything from independent record labels to hacker spaces, and I wouldn't be surprised if you saw startup communities and incubators emerge with this model before too long. Eventually, I see network coins replacing stock, as it literally improves on the concept of equity in basically every way. We're not issuing stock, and I want to be clear that LTB coins are simply a fixed supply proprietary token that the LTB network voluntarily, non-contractually, and publicly will commit to honor for a growing list of goods and services. While the goal and vision are clear, the best technology to build this all on isn't necessarily clear. And so we have not yet decided between building a user currency on top of a metacoin like Mastercoin, or if it's simply better to take the most advanced forms of proof-of-stake systems like that being created by BitShares and essentially just fork that code for our own use. The human team will be doing the implementation of this for us, whatever technology we decide on. So really, it's just a matter of seeing kind of what happens over the next couple of months. There's a lot of specifics I'm not going into here, and much is still undecided. Stay tuned for future updates on the topic, and if you've got a comment about it so far, email adam@letstalkbitcoin.com with the subject LTB coin. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to episode 81 of Let's Talk Bitcoin. Michael Pacher was produced by Stephanie Murphy, edited by Adam B. Levine. Xavier Hawk was captured by Steve Malagotti of Spectacular Sound at the North American Bitcoin Conference in January 2014. LTB Coin was written, read, and produced by Adam B. Levine. Music was provided for this episode by Jared Rubens, General Fuzz, and Calvin Henderson. Questions or comments? Email adam@letstalkbitcoin.com. Have a good one.
I'm Ed.
I'm Ethan. And together we host Ed and Ethan's Bitcoin Report live Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern on KCAA Radio 1050 AM.
It's a show all about the world's leading cryptocurrency, Bitcoin.
Not everybody we talk to agrees with us.
Like Peter Schiff.
Bitcoins are not money. They're not better than gold. It's not gold 2.0.
But we get some great perspectives from people like Eric Voorhees.
Nothing has intrinsic value. Things are valued subjectively by the people doing the valuing.
Sometimes it gets controversial.
Like when we talk to Charlie Shrem.
Why can't a government stop it, or why can't a government come in? The same reason that the government has tried to shut down file sharing.
And good times with friends and allies like Roger Ver.
It's always great to talk about Bitcoin with anyone willing to listen. And thank you guys for your wonderful coverage. I listen from time to time myself.
Oh my goodness, awesome. I've just become Twitter pet Roger. You have given me a case of the vapors, good sir. So tune in live Wednesday nights and give us a call, or download direct from edandethan.com.